Thank you.
Can you please make sure you've turned off your phones? Thank you. Good evening, everyone. This evening we are very fortunate to hear from Mary Pyatt. Is that right? Pyatt, a counsellor of Hospice Austin, who will help us prepare, understand, and cope with the losses that are a normal part of our lives. Mary grew up in a dysfunctional family where conditional love and emotional neglect was the norm. By the age of 10, she was looking after her siblings, cooking meals, and hoping to earn approval. It never came. Mary has 2 daughters and 2 sons. Her youngest daughter was born with cerebral palsy and intellectual disability. When Mary attended graduate school for a degree in counselling, she specialised in grief and relational trauma because these were the circumstances she understood from her personal experience. Please help me welcome Mary.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here tonight to talk with you about a subject that I love to work in, grief. Not that I'm happy that people have grief, but that I can be a support to them while they're grieving. So I'm so glad that you're here tonight, and I'm hoping to help you understand grief a little better, to understand what's normal in your grief, so that as you experience changes in your lives, either with yourself or with your partner or with your friends, you'll feel like you have a little bit of information to navigate those changes a little bit better. Okay, so here we go. I have been with Hospice Austin 4 years as an employee, and 1 year as an intern. I went back to graduate school at age 52, so, but I'm very happy to be with Hospice Austin. I've also done a lot of grief groups with Hospice Austin. I think I'm at almost 20 at this point. And I've done webinars with Nancy McCraney. If any of you know her, we work together on Hospice Austin webinars, and she has been such a wonderful role model for me. All right, so first I want to talk about grief being a normal, healthy response to profound health changes and loss. Of course you're going to grieve if you or someone you love has been diagnosed with an illness, if someone has been diagnosed with a terminal illness, of course you're going to grieve. And it's not just the death that you might be grieving, it might be other things. And we're gonna kind of get in there and talk about the different layers that might be impacting your grief. But what grief looks like, it looks like feeling overwhelmed or completely numb. It looks like attending to all the needs that need to be done, almost as if, the activity helps you get through the day, or it looks like not being able to do anything at all. It looks like having difficulty concentrating or making decisions. A lot of people I talk to are surprised by that one. They're like, I can't seem to remember anything. Well, you're grieving, and it impacts your ability to remember, make decisions. You may have anxiety about yourself or your future. You may have anger and resentment. A lot of what we experience in grief doesn't feel fair, and so we can be angry about that. We might have mood changes where we're just irritable or just sad. And we can have a lot of fear around grief for ourselves or for those we love. to talk specifically about anticipatory grief, prolonged grief, active grief. And I also added ambiguous loss, cumulative loss, and non-death loss, because I think all of these can be a part of your grief story. And I wanted to help you understand that these could be the many layers that you're struggling with. So let's get into these a little bit more. So anticipatory grief. This is grief before the actual death happens. And this is a real grief. And it can look like a cancer diagnosis or an Alzheimer's or dementia diagnosis. You're grieving for what you're losing. You're grieving for the unknown of what's to come. That's anticipatory grief. So either the person with the diagnosis or their loved one recognizes that death is a possible outcome or probable outcome. And they may want to make the most of the time that they have left. That's a choice. And either the person that's experiencing the diagnosis or their loved ones may all experience grief symptoms, okay? Just like we talked about. Difficulty making decisions, being irritable, being angry or resentful. All of those symptoms that we talked about can be part of anticipatory grief. So how do you help someone who's experiencing that? Either the person themselves that's going into a difficult diagnosis or their loved ones. Discuss what's most important. Try to make the most of your time. Don't leave anything unsaid. And that can be hard, but the people who tell me that they've done that, have made the effort to do that, are so relieved later. Be intentional with your time. I worked with a woman who knew her grandmother was going to die, and she was very close to her grandmother. And she decided, she was a busy professional with 2 young children, but she decided she was going to spend Tuesday afternoons with her grandma. And she did that. And after her grandmother died, that was so helpful to her to know that she had set aside dedicated time to be with her grandmother. And then be supportive to the person with the diagnosis or to their loved ones. What do they need? Don't assume you know what they need. Ask what they need. And support their decisions. Okay. Prolonged grief. This is the grief that happens for more than a year. And it can, it's usually after the death has occurred, but it can also kind of join with the anticipatory grief. And if it's going on for more than a year, that's cause for some concern. And it causes distress to the person experiencing it and their loved ones, and it impairs daily functioning. So those are the 2 big indicators of prolonged loss. The distress and the daily living being impacted in negative ways and lasting more than 12 months. So what it looks like is intense emotional pain or numbness, persistent yearning or pining, difficulty accepting the loss or denial, difficulty engaging in social activities, not wanting to do anything, wanting to just stay alone, feeling that life is meaningless. And so this is cause for concern, in that you should seek help. You know, if this is you feeling this way after a loss, please reach out and get help. And if this is a loved one, a friend, even a partner, you know, help them to get professional help. This kind of goes beyond what we consider normal grieving, and we just want to make you aware of what to look for, that if you notice these things, that person needs help, and you should get professional help for them. And that can look like medical doctor and counseling, okay? Active grief. So this is grief characterized by action rather than being passive. Okay? And active grieving is actually a very good thing. Because to grieve is an action word. And so to be active in your grief is actually a good thing. So what does it look like? It looks like coming to an understanding of what can be controlled and what cannot be controlled. Choosing to do the things that are good for us even if we don't want to. So that means getting up, taking a shower, getting ready for the day, getting out of our rooms or our spaces to be with other people, even if it's just for a little bit. Staying home or staying in your room is not helpful to your grief. You need to have a little bit of contact with other people. You still need time alone, absolutely. A lot of people need time to just be with their own feelings, and that's fine as long as you're balancing that and you're not just spending all your time alone. And how do you help someone who's in active grief? Support their efforts to engage in life or invite them to do something. Listen. The best thing that I can do as a grief counselor is to listen. I don't have all the answers. I don't know necessarily what's going to fix any one of my clients, but I can listen. I can make suggestions, gentle suggestions. And the power of just someone hearing you is so powerful. There's a grief expert, David Kessler, who says our grief needs to be witnessed. And we witness people's grief by just listening to them and allowing people to be sad. I know that's so hard when we love someone to see them sad, but if they're grieving, they need to let those feelings out. And you can be the safe place that they do that. Okay. All right, so the next is ambiguous loss. So this is grief that happens when something or someone profoundly changes or disappears. Such as when a loved one has dementia or needs to be moved to a hospital or another facility. So they're still alive, but they don't look or act like they always looked and acted, or they're not with us like they used to be because they're somewhere else. This feels like an ambiguous loss that other people can't necessarily see or know unless they know that you have a loved one who has dementia or Alzheimer's or has been moved to another facility. So you might not get the attention that other people who whose grief is more public would get, okay? So this can profoundly impact the way we grieve. It's confusing. We haven't really lost the person yet, but they don't act or talk or connect with me in the way that they used to. So a person that's going through those changes may be having their own anticipatory grief that, why can't they remember things that they always do? Why do they feel so confused? That is so upsetting to people. My mom had early onset Alzheimer's disease, and it's very confusing to her when she started to not know what was happening around her. They can experience grief for losing their abilities. And people around them can experience grief because they're not the same person that they used to be, okay? Or they're not with them all the time. So again, how to help? Listen, it's powerful medicine. Be supportive, and provide distraction. This is maybe one that we don't think of, but sometimes when people are really struggling with their grief, they need to take a break from their grief and do something different. So maybe you provide that distraction, you know? Hey, let's go watch a movie, or hey, let's go play a game or something. You provide that distraction to help them take a little break from their grief. And that's very healthy. Some people think, but is that fair that I'm enjoying myself when my loved one is so ill or has just died? And it is absolutely healthy for you to do that. And there's a big fancy word for that. It's called the dual process model, which means you spend time in your grief, feeling your feelings, and then you take a break from your grief and engage in your life and connect with your people. And then you go back and spend more time in your grief, and then you swing back and spend time in your daily life. That is the best way that the research shows to move through grief. Take breaks. You deserve that time to just take care of yourself, do something enjoyable. You deserve that. Let's see. Okay. Cumulative loss. This is a grief when you experience a second loss before you've fully processed a first loss, or multiple losses in quick succession. It makes it really, really hard to grieve if someone else has died before you've fully grieved for the first person, and it can compound your grief. So it can look like overwhelming emotional pain, or trying to avoid feeling anything at all, because it's just so painful. So when that happens to someone you know or love, the question, how are you doing today? That people don't know how to answer that. It's like, my loved one just died. Two people I know and love just died. How do I answer that question? So ask them instead, how are you doing today? How are you doing today? That's a little bit easier for people to respond to. And maybe say, today's not that great. Or I'm doing a little bit better today. That gives you kind of a little barometer on how someone is moving through their grief. And another thing that's really, really helpful, and you might think the opposite is true, is talking about the loved one who died. I have talked to probably hundreds of people, And most of the stories I hear are love stories, how they love their person, whether it was a spouse or partner or a child or a sibling. They're all love stories, and allowing the person to talk about them, and even maybe asking some questions, you know. For example, we just had Valentine's Day, and I asked one of my clients who lost his wife, I said, tell me about your favorite Valentine's Day with your wife. And he told me a very sweet memory. He had made dinner for her and the whole thing, lobster thermidor. I don't even know how to make that. So it was just a very sweet story. So sometimes asking people to talk about their loved one in a specific way, you know, ask a question. What's your favorite memory? You know, what are you missing about them? Give them that space to talk about their loved one. So non-death loss. Okay, this is grief for the loss of anything significant to a person's physical, meaning their health or their mobility, psychological, spiritual, or interpersonal lives. And that can look like political stress, okay? So a person may experience some grief symptoms as if a death has occurred. They feel disconnected from what they thought their world would look like, or their importance in the world, even though they're maybe they don't have an illness, or a loved one doesn't have an illness, but they still have a sense of grief for the future that does not look like what they thought their future would look like. This can lead to a lot of stress, emotional overwhelm, anger, irritability. And this needs to be recognized and grieved just like any other loss. And so asking questions, you know, what is it that you're really upset about? Ask someone, you know, what about your life today is not what you had hoped it would be? Ask questions, not in a trying to correct them or change their mind, but in just be curious, you know, and that can help you to connect with them. They need to talk to someone, and so you could be that person that someone talks to. And so now these 6 different things that we've talked about, they can all impact us at the same time, okay? And let me go back to that one slide with all these can all be happening at the same time, is what I want to point out. And this can make your grief very heavy. So having a place to talk about that with friends, maybe you meet with someone to do a morning devotional and just have a place to talk about what's weighing on you, something like that. All of this can make our grief harder if we're not aware of it and we're not taking steps to acknowledge it and make space for it. Okay. So this is a great quote. The pain and grief is inevitable, and we're all going to experience loss. I mean, that's just how life is. But the suffering can be optional in the sense that we can get support. We can talk to people. We can do things that we know are healthy for us. Trying to get enough sleep, trying to move our bodies every day. That can help us to grieve more normally and not have our grief go in the direction of like prolonged grief. we want this, even though it's painful, yes, it is painful, but for you to move through this without adding added suffering of not taking good care of yourself, or isolating yourself and not talking with other people, that adds to your suffering. Okay, so how to prepare and cope with health changes. So recognize that your feelings are normal and valid, and they're unique to you. I haven't said that yet. Everybody grieves a little differently, okay? For some people, it's all about feeling their emotions. For other people, it's like, okay, just tell me what I need to do, and I'll do it. That's how they work through their grief, and neither one is better or worse than the other. And we're all on that spectrum somewhere, okay? So recognize that how you're grieving may look different from someone else. There's no right or wrong answer to this, and everybody's feelings are valid. Talk about your feelings and fears with trusted friends or a grief counselor. Get informed about what to expect for the diagnosis or condition that you're facing or a loved one's facing. Again, I just mentioned this, take care of yourself by getting rest and moving your body, eating well. Get support for yourself as well as a loved one. I'm not sure if you have these services in Westminster, but I know that respite care is available in our area, and as well as caregiver support groups. If you're the caregiver for a loved one, taking some time to get your own support with that in a caregiver support group would be so helpful. And don't be afraid to ask for help. I know I struggle with this. But when I can be brave and ask someone, can you take care of this for me? Wow, what a relief it is. Even if it's just something, can you pick up some groceries, milk and bread for me? Or can you go pick up my prescriptions for me? That is so helpful. And it's also important if you're offering support to someone to try to be specific. Can I go pick up groceries for you? Can I put in a load laundry for you? Like, be specific of what help you could do for them. And every little bit helps. So even if you can only do one little thing, you'd be amazed at how the person will appreciate that that's one task off their list, okay? So, how to support a friend dealing with health changes or their caregiver. So I put reach out as often as is welcome. Sometimes, people need some time to themselves. They might not want people with them 24/7, and be respectful of that. We just talked about offering a specific help. And I just thought of one. So one of my clients lost her husband, and her friend wanted to do something for her, and she works, and she has to work one evening a month. She's a librarian, and she does a book club one evening a month. And so she asked her friend, would you mind making dinner for us one night a month? And the friend was like, I'd love to do that, It's a small thing for her friend, but it's a huge thing for my client that she doesn't have to worry about dinner on that one night that she has to work in the evening. Provide some distraction. We talked about that. Try to get your friend to, or your spouse or your partner to do something enjoyable. And again, just listen. That's such powerful medicine for people who are grieving. We think in this culture that talking about people who have died is maybe insensitive because the person might begin to cry. But the people that talk to me in grief counseling love to talk about their loved ones. And they'll say things to me like, I can't talk to my family because I start to cry, and then they get upset and want me to stop crying, and I just need to cry. So, and it can be so healing and cleansing for a person just to let those tears flow. And some people have said, well, I'm afraid if I start crying, I won't stop. Well, that has never happened in my experience. So, and you know, you release toxins when you cry. So having a place to just feel your feelings can be so helpful. All right, so I think I went through that kind of quickly, but I hope you have questions.
Any questions?
Well, I have my experience with here. My mother died here on September 20th, 2000 at 5:35 in the old room, right in front of Chris Hines, the published chaplain at that time.
Okay.
And what I've wondered is do you think sometimes somebody may have a subconscious desire to protect their loved son or something and not go until he's away a while, and then all of a sudden when the chaplain comes, then they go then?
Okay. I'm not sure I understand the question. So not telling people right away, is that what you're saying?
Well, or not going in front of people.
I thought I still had my mic. Okay.
I gave Mother a lot of attention, even, and played some music, and Fish was near my God thee.
Yeah.
I was about to go, but then I went off on a trip and said, I'll probably see you in a few weeks, but if you aren't here, don't worry, I'll be all right, because if you're not here, I'll know who you are. Daddy died earlier that year, and that's how I ended it.
And she died while you were away?
Well, she did.
Okay.
Dad had already given up living January 1st in such pain.
Yeah, yeah. I'm so sorry that that happened to you. But I think you handled that really well by telling your mother before you left that you were going to be away, and, you know, letting her know that you'd see her again sometime. Not everyone gets to be with their loved one when they die. I was not able to be with either one of my parents when they died, and I understand your feelings of maybe guilt around that, like maybe I should have been there.
No, I think it was better because Chris Hines was there right for the moment.
Yeah.
That, and even Dad didn't stick around, but I don't think he wanted to be away, didn't he? That evening of December 31st. And I have a feeling maybe he was anticipating he was going to go on January 1st of 2000.
Yeah.
And they all saw him go early, and this one went on. She got off hospice for a time for about five weeks or 3, but then she suddenly started the fever, then started suddenly to slow down breathing. They didn't try to resuscitate her, just held it, and I was in Utica, New York at the moment she died for the time between trains.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
I think maybe that's where she was.
Absolutely. I believe that sometimes our loved ones don't want us to see them in their final moments. Yeah.
I'm satisfied.
Yes. Yeah.
My wife just doing something for all the caregiving. And my wife
has been so involved for years and years and years with caregivers, patients, families, and so often has run into situations where the family members are so resistant to hospice care. And we know how wonderful it can be. Is there some message or some format you would share with those people to help them open up their thoughts to being receptive to hospice care?
Mary, start by defining hospice care.
Okay, so when patients come on Hospice Austin care, basically what they're doing is they're giving up pursuing any kind of treatment, and they're just moving into comfort care. So they will be given medication and other maybe devices to help them be as comfortable as possible, but there is no treatment. And some people are really resistant to making that call for their loved one. A lot of people tell me when I see them in bereavement after they've lost their loved one, I wish we had put my spouse, my parent, in hospice care sooner. So I know most people have the experience of it was helpful to have hospice involved, and I wish we'd had more of that. I think my loved one would have been more comfortable had it lasted a little longer. So I think we're trying, Hospice Austin is trying to get the word out about our services, and trying to let people know that it's not a bad decision. And I know because my dad had pancreatic cancer, and he chose to do every treatment and lost so much weight, you know, and it was 4 months from diagnosis until his death. He was only on hospice 24 hours until he died, and this was in Florida. He retired to Florida. So I think my dad was thinking, like, I have to keep fighting, I have to keep fighting. And so if we can help our loved ones to just be open to the conversation with their medical provider, to, like, what do you think? Should we keep doing the treatments, or, you know, will you please let me know when you think I should stop treatment? I think that can help. So getting the medical providers involved can help, because it's a very difficult decision, either for yourself or for your loved ones to have to make for you. But so yeah, sharing, if you've had an experience with hospice, share your experience with other people, and let them know. I've heard so many wonderful things about the nursing staff, or if people have been at Christopher House, what a loving place that is. So I would just encourage you to be open yourselves, and also, you know, help your family members to be open to that.
I was going to add to that. So my name is Kim Truss, and I am the liaison for Hospice Austin. And so what my job is I do go out and I sit down with families that are considering hospice or trying to decide when the right time is for hospice. And one of the things I think I see the most is that there is a fear of coming on a hospice, and that primary concern is mainly from misconceptions of what they perceive hospice to be. And yes, like Mary said, you're not pursuing curative treatment like chemo or things like that. But what I tell families is it doesn't mean necessarily that you're stopping everything. Like, for some people that means, oh, you know, then no, if I have to stop everything. They think that we're going to take them off of all their meds and all we're gonna do is give them morphine or whatever, and that's not the case. And so, like, I think when you start hearing, like, from those, you know, what their fears are, like, I try to understand what are your fears, what are your goals, and at the end of the day, I'm like, we're not doing anything to expedite death or slow it down. We're meeting the body where it is, and of course, we're going to allow something if it's a comfort measure, or if it's something that's impeding on, you know, the patient's, comfort. And so we're going to address that. And so everything is open for discussion. At the end of the day, it comes down to what is the goal of what we're doing and while we're treating it. And so it's always a conversation that we have, and yes, the provider is really big in that. And like here, we have great relationships with the providers that are in Westminster, but then also, you know, you may have your own provider outside. You know, Hospice Austin does have their own medical directors as well that are highly trained in palliative and hospice, so they understand all the different end-of-life diseases and how they progress and how to best care. So I do think a lot of it comes down to fear and just not being educated. And so I'm always like, I tell families, even if now is not the time, maybe you are like Mary's dad, and you know, I'm all about pursue treatment until it's not helping. When your symptoms of what's going on are outweighing your quality of life, that's when you should start having those goals of care, finding out, like, is this truly what's best? Because I tell families all the time, especially with therapy, like, yes, if physical therapy or occupational therapy is helping and you're gaining strength and you're seeing progress, absolutely continue that. But if you're having more continuous falls, rehospitalizations, your loved one's not wanting to participate, they're in pain, like, you need to question, is this really helping? Because it really could be breaking their body down faster. And honestly, statistics show a person lives 20% longer if they come on hospice sooner and not pushing their body to do things that it's not meant to be. So I know that's a lot of extra, but I just wanted to give you all that.
Absolutely, thank you. Yes.
Excuse me.
Oh, okay,
Yes.
so, yes.
Yes, I have a comment and a question.
Yes.
Because you said that, like, this one particular person that had pancreatic cancer wanted to try everything. And I wonder if there's not so much a fear of what might hurt or happen, but a fear that if they quit, they're giving up.
Right.
And we've spent our whole lives with people telling us from the time we're 3 years old to try harder, do it again, no, don't quit soccer, don't quit Little League, don't quit Scouts, you can do it, you know, that giving up is bad. And
Yes.
that this is sort of built into our psyche, and that a lot of people feel like going on hospice is giving up.
Yeah.
And how do we, if that's part of it, how do we help change that attitude?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I think you're spot on with that. We have grown up with that mindset of, you know, don't quit. And I think what's helpful is getting educated, like Kim said, about when it's not really a matter of quitting, but a matter of choice. And saying, I choose to, you know, direct my attention toward comfort and any time I have left, you know, with my family, rather than pursuing some sort of treatment. Also, I would suggest maybe getting some counseling around that, you know, either for yourself because you're considering, you know, stopping treatment or concerned about it, or for a loved one. Because we can do grief counseling about that's anticipatory grief. And we can talk about that and see, well, what are your fears? Like Kim said, some people are so afraid of pain and other things, and if we can educate them that they have a choice, I think that's so empowering for people. If we can maybe shift the narrative from I'm quitting to I'm making an informed choice about how I want to live out my final days. Does that make sense? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Hi.
Hi.
Thank you for being here. In 1990, my father decided to discontinue dialysis,
Okay.
and he knew the consequences of that decision. What I learned from that experience with him was that trying to stay alive takes a lot of physical, emotional, intellectual, and spiritual energy.
Yes.
And when he made that decision, and he let go of the effort that was involved, something wonderful happened to him. And that is, I began to see the man he was deep inside himself. And he began to be, he radically changed. He put down different roots, or he grew into the roots that were his at the beginning.
Yeah.
And it was not an easy gift. It
No.
took him about 6 weeks to die,
Yeah.
but he maintained that decision all the way through. He had peace about it, and it was, it allowed him to become who he was at the end, because he let go of all of the effort and the stress and the strain of trying to stay alive.
Yeah. That's a beautiful story about someone who changed for the better, making a choice to stop treatment. Thank you for sharing it. Yeah. We've got one over here. Okay, we'll go over here. Yeah.
Hi. This probably comes into the non-death grieving, and I haven't been here too long, and I don't think, excuse my voice, I'm the only one to express this, but I think this is a sense of grieving that I've experienced, and I think it's a normal thing, but it's something I'm working through, and I'm sure other people have to work through. It's not seeing someone die, but see someone move from maybe independent care to memory care. All of a
Yes.
sudden, where's so-and-so? I haven't
Yes.
seen her for 4 days, and then you find this out. And that's a grieving process.
Absolutely it is.
And I think I'm not the only one grieving it, I'm sure I'm not. So anyway, but I think it's something I'm working through, and I think we have to work that through. It's a thing of life, but it also takes a lot of thinking through. So you don't think, I'm here to die, I'm here to live.
Yes.
And you belong.
Yes.
So thank you.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. And you know, maybe gathering together with other people to share, like, I'm really missing this person, and I didn't see that coming, you know, and I'm not sure what to do with my feelings about that. That is absolutely a non-death loss that we struggle with as we get older, and this happens more and more and more to our friends. Yeah. Just, I would suggest leaning on each other, you know. Perhaps you could have a grief group here, or you could call it something, you know, catchier title. You know, I'm not sure, like The Great Beyond or something. I don't know. But to talk about those feelings, you know. Because I think what I see in our grief groups at Hospice Austin, people come in the room and they're just so broken, and we ask everybody to share their story of loss, and they're kind of looking down, and I lost my spouse, I lost my parent, and then someone else starts to talk, and they look at the person next to them, and then someone else talks, and then they're starting to see that they're not the only one. They don't feel so lonely anymore, and they really by the end of our 8-week groups, they're like, can this keep going? I'm getting so much out of this group. So I would encourage you to, do something together. Yeah.
On prolonged grief,
Mm-hmm.
what are your best suggestions to get a non-family member to go to counseling?
Okay. Yeah, that's a tricky one. You might invite a counselor to come and talk to them, and just see if they enjoy it, to say, I brought someone in to talk to you, and a lot of times people actually enjoy having someone who has no skin in the game. Like, I'm an objective person, and so they enjoy having someone to talk to. So maybe, asking if the counselor would be willing to come in and meet them, not having them go to the counselor, because that might be too triggering for them. But have the counselor come in and talk to them and see if they fit. See if the person likes being able to talk about what they're feeling. And sometimes there's a lot of fear around counseling. But basically, it's a lot of listening, and, there might be coping strategies and things like that we share, but it's a lot of listening and validating the person's experience. So, okay, lots of questions. Okay, here we got a mic right here.
Carolyn's next year.
Okay, hold on one second, okay? Okay, sorry.
I also had a question about prolonged grief. We
Yeah.
lost a child, and we're part of a parent support group of just parents that have lost their children. And nobody ever said, after a year, you'll be over it. So I don't know if I was everything you said resonated with me. It was just so spot on, except for I was a little surprised when you said after a year it's considered prolonged. And I just don't remember hearing that. And I don't know if it's different when you lose a child as opposed to a parent or...
No, I probably misrepresented that. So we're talking about the pining and the not getting out of bed. If that's going on for more than a year, then yeah, that's prolonged grief. Grief continues until you die. You'll always miss your loved one. You'll always miss them. It won't always feel like it does right at first. Your grief changes over time, but you'll always miss them. So I'm so sorry if I gave that impression like you get over your grief, because you never do. But if we're talking about that pining, just crying all the time, the longing, the not wanting to do anything, they say things like, my life is over without my person. They can't seem to engage with anyone anymore. If that continues past a year, yeah. I'm so sorry I gave you that.
I might have misheard.
No, I'm glad you mentioned it though. Yeah.
Okay, I have a question. When we talk about grieving and things of this kind, so far I have not heard anything in connection with religious faith. And how does it play? What do you think is your role?
Yeah, that's a great question. Some people find a lot of comfort in their faith when they're grieving. And so if my clients come in and they want to talk about their faith or scripture, then we do that. But I think as a counselor, as a licensed professional counselor, I can't bring religion into the discussion unless my client brings it to me. I have to be respectful that not everybody believes the same things. But yes, I do believe that faith, whatever faith people ascribe to, can be very, very important to their grieving and healing. And so if people have a strong faith, I encourage them to, talk to their pastor or their priest or whoever is the leader of their church to get some pastoral counseling as well, if they have a strong faith, because that can be an added support for their grief. Yeah, very good question.
I want to thank Lois for bringing up the issue of the ways in which we who live here observe and attend to the changes in other people's lives. Last week, a friend on our floor died, and it was fairly unexpected. And I know several of us were grieving that
Absolutely.
death. And so I went down on Thursday afternoon and talked with security and asked about hanging a black ribbon from her door. And I got the answer that the security officer would talk with Bridget, who's head of security. I didn't hear back, so I went and got a black ribbon and hung it from our friend's door. And it has been really, I think, several people have commented on how that has been very helpful to acknowledge the death. We walk by the door and there's this black ribbon hanging there. And somehow it is very subtly helping us through this initial period of grief. So I just wanted to mention that.
What a great idea. There needs,
Some of those things are easy to ask forgiveness and permission.
yes, there you go.
Well, and I don't know if y'all ever, Rachel, you know, I mean, she's here too for y'all, so if y'all ever want like more support, I would say go to her too, because I know she offers things, but then we've also come along and brought in our chaplain at times and done little like group, just they're real informal, whoever wants to come and talk about stuff like that. So if that's something that you all are seeing a need for, just bring it up and we're happy to offer that, you know, so yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Like, if you can do something as a group of residents to witness the grief of the loss of one of your members here, I think that would be so healing to do something. Have a chaplain come in, or even just gather together, read a poem, and go around the circle and say, you know, a special memory you have of that person, or what you like most about them, something like that. That's all so healing, to gather together and say, we acknowledge that this person is gone and we miss them.
If we don't have any more questions, we'll give a big round of applause.
Thank you
so much.
Just one more thing. We have some handouts in the back table. If you're interested, there's lots of handouts from Hospice Austin. I also have some business cards there. I'm not sure. Marianne? I'm not sure. I didn't leave there. Is there a handout you're collecting? Okay. Okay. So Pam knows about that. Okay, I'll take it for you. Sorry. It's all filled out. Sorry.